So in the last class, we have seen about the introduction to ICs. So we have seen the IC design flow. So after that, we have seen ASIC design flow and FPGA design flow. Now let us see the IC package types. Okay, so there are three types of IC design package types. The first one is metal can package, dual inline package, and flat pack. Okay, these are the major types of IC packages after manufacturing your IC. Okay, the pack on the top of the IC, so the IC will be packed by using some materials. Okay, so based on the materials what we have used for packaging, so there are three types of ICs. Like metal can package, dual inline package, and flat pack. Okay, so it is the metal can package. This type of ICs we have seen in your lab. Okay, the metal sealing plane is at the bottom over which the chip is bounded. Okay, so it is also called as transistor pack. So mostly we will find the transistors like this. So in our lab, that BC107, so like this, so most of the transistors will be like this. So this is called as metal can package, where metal is used as a sealing plane at the bottom and at the top. Okay, so it is the metal can package. So you can see the corresponding picture in the slide. So this is one type of packaging. So coming to the other, so the next one is dual inline package. Sorry, the spelling mistake was there. So DAUL should be okay. So dual inline package. Here the chip is mounted inside a plastic or a ceramic case. Okay, so by taking a plastic material or ceramic materials, the chip is mounted inside it. So you can see here. So this is the, in the picture you can see the dual inline package ICs. Okay, your IC 741, that is the operational amplifier which you are going to study, and the timers. So most of the ICs will be in dual inline package. They are available with the 12 pin, 14 pin, 16 pin, and 20 pin. So depending upon the IC, dual line packages available with different number of pins, that too with the even number of pins. For example, if it is a 12 pin dual inline package, means 6 pins will be present on one side and 6 pins will be present on the other side. So if we are talking about the 20 pin dual inline package, means on one side you will be getting the 10 pins, on the other side you will be getting the 10 pins. So 8 pin dual inline package also present. So it is called as mini dip. So mini dual inline package. So it is about the dual inline packages. So the next one is flat pack. So here you can see the flat pack. So Fairchild 702 AppAmp is the example for this. You have seen this type of ICs in the lab also. Okay, so the chip is enclosed in a rectangular ceramic. So in case of previous thing, the chip is enclosed. Okay, so if you are talking about the dual in package, the chip is mounted inside the plastic, but in this case the chip is enclosed in the rectangular ceramic case. Okay, so it is the flat pack. So these are the three type of packaging. So let us see what are the selection criteria. So how you can pack the chip by using the three types of materials what we have discussed. The first one is metal can package. Okay, so if the heat dissipation is important. Okay, so if the heat dissipation is important, so we can use the metal can package for high power applications like power amplifiers, voltage regulators, etc. So these, for this type of applications, whatever the ICs we are using, so these ICs will be manufactured by using the metal can package, or they will be packed by using the metal can package. The next one is DIP, that is dual in package for the ICs, so which we will be using in the experimental or breadboard purpose. So for this type of ICs, we will be using the DIP package. Why? Because this type of packaging helps us easily to mount your ICs on the breadboard. Okay, so if bending or soldering of the leads is not required here also, and it is also mainly suitable for the printed circuit boards as lead space is more. Okay, so DIP dual inline package is mostly used for the for the ICs which will be used for experimentation, or for the ICs which will be purposely used for the PCB designing. So next one is flat pack. So if the type of ICs so which require less in weight and more reliability, and moreover the ICs which are used in the airborne applications, for such type of applications we have to use the flat pack type of packaging. Okay, so these are the selection criteria of the IC package. So in order, if the for that given IC, if the heat dissipation is very high or the heat dissipation is important for these sort of applications, that is for high power applications like regulators, power amplifiers, so we can use the metal can package. For the ICs which are used on the for the purpose of experimentation, or the ICs which are used on the breadboard or on the printed circuit board. So for these types of ICs, so dual inline package type is used, and for the sunborn applications, so flat pack is used. So next you can see here the packages of in a single frame. So the first one is metal can, that is it can be taken as TO package, and followed by dual inline package, that is DIP package, and followed by the flat package. So these are the three type of packages of ICs. Okay, so if you open this package and you can see the IC will be like a glass. Okay, you can open this packaging types. You can buy the ICs and we have to carefully open the packages. So inside that you can see the real ICs. Next, the temperature ranges. Okay, so the temperature ranges of an IC varies from application to application. Okay, so for the ICs that are used in the for the military applications, the temperature range of the ICs. So that means the temperature the IC should withstand is minus 55 degrees centigrade to 125 degree centigrade. Okay, the ICs that are used for the industrial purpose, this IC should withstand the temperature ranging from minus 20 degrees to 85 degree centigrade. Okay, or else sometimes it is from minus 40 degrees centigrade to 85 degrees centigrade. For the commercial applications, the temperature should be ranging from 0 degrees to 70 degrees or 75 degrees. So these are the three types of temperature ranges. So based on the application, the IC should be able to withstand the given temperature values. So that is for military temperature, for military applications, that is the ICs that are used in the military applications. That means the ICs that will be used in the war tankers, or the ICs that is used in the that is the airborne applications of military. So for all this, that ICs should be able to withstand the temperature of minus 55 degrees centigrade to 125 degrees centigrade for industrial temperature range. So that is whatever the ICs so that are used in the ICs, so they can withstand the temperature of minus 20 degrees to 85 degrees centigrade. And for the commercial temperature, that is for the commercial things, that is for the commercial applications like our laptops or mobile phones, the temperature range of the ICs, so they should withstand from 0 degrees to 70 degrees centigrade. So these are the different manufacturer designations for linear ICs. So you can see on the left hand side, that is Fairchild, National Semiconductor, Motorola, RCA, Texas Instruments, Signetics, and Burr Brown. So these are the different different manufacturers so that are able to design or manufacture your linear ICs. Okay, the corresponding designation is given on the right hand side. So if the IC is manufactured by the Fairchild, so on the IC it will be written as UA or UAF followed by some number. So if it is UA or UAF, so then we can say that so this particular IC has been manufactured by the Fairchild company. Okay, so if the company is manufactured by the National Semiconductor, so on the IC it will be written LM or LH or LF or TBA followed by the IC number. Okay, so if the designation is among these four, then we can say that the IC is manufactured by the National Semiconductor company. And if the IC consists of MC or MFC, means the particular IC is manufactured by the Motorola company. So if the IC consists of SN, so then the particular IC has been manufactured by the Texas Instruments. So like this, there are many, apart from these companies, there are many number of IC manufacturers. So for each of the IC manufacturer, there will be a separate designation. So based on the designation, we can find out so IC is manufactured by which company. Okay, so whenever you are getting an IC, the IC number will be written on the top of the IC. If you can see in the lab also, I think you might have seen that. Okay, so in the digital lab also, the part number of the IC will be written on this. Written on the top of that IC. So where it consists of the details regarding the manufacturer as well as the IC details. So if you open that by typing that number in the Google, you can find out the data sheet. So the data sheet of the IC consisting of everything. Okay. So these are the basics of IC. So the next thing in your syllabus, so we are going to study about the operational amplifier. So operational amplifier is a type of amplifier. So it is a amplification device, so that can be used to amplify DC as well as AC input signals. Okay, so this operational amplifier can amplify the DC as well as AC input signal. So but this operational amplifier was originally designed for computing mathematical functions such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and integration. So these are the applications of operational amplifier. So what does the operational amplifier consist of? The operational amplifier is a direct couple high gain amplifier. So it gives the high gain output. Okay, so it is a high gain amplifier. So it consists of one or more differential amplifiers and usually followed by a level translator and output stage. Okay, so if you want to just describe the definition of an operational amplifier, so what you can say is that so operational amplifier is a versatile device. Or operational amplifier is an amplifier that can be used to amplify DC as well as AC input signals, but this was originally designed for mathematical applications or for doing the mathematical functions such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and integration. So the operational amplifier, the internal structure of operational amplifier consists of one or more differential amplifiers followed by a level translator and a output stage. So the differential amplifier is nothing but whatever the difference of the two signals is taken, so the difference of the two signals will be amplified by the differential amplifier. Okay, so normally if you take the internal structure of operational amplifier, it consists of two stages of differential amplifiers, then followed by the level translator and output stage. So in the classes to come, so we can discuss in detail about the block diagram of the operational amplifier. So now next one is the symbol of operational amplifier. So the operational amplifier can be written as op amp. So OP-AMP. So operational amplifier can be written as op amp. So it is the symbol of the operational amplifier. Okay, so it is the symbol of the operational amplifier. So mainly it refers to, so you can see here there are majorly 5 terminals here. So which are the 5 active terminals? So first one is output terminal. Okay, so then followed by terminal 4 and terminal 11. So these are positive power supply terminals, and the 11th terminal is negative power supply terminal. So next, second terminal of the op amp is non-input inverting input terminal, and third terminal is non-inverting input terminal. So this terminal names will be different from the type of DAP. So this operational amplifier is available in different packages. That is, so it is available in 8-pin package, 8-pin DAP package, and 12-pin DAP package, and 20-pin DAP package. So depending upon the application, this op amp is available in different packages. So based on the different packages, the terminal numbers are differentiated from each of the op amp. Okay, so majorly, so this op amp consists of 5 important terminals. 2 are the input terminals, and 1 is output terminal, and 2 are the positive power supply terminal, that is taken as the positive rail, and another one is negative power supply terminal, so which can be taken as the negative. Okay, so that means we are going to give two types of power supplies, positive power supply and negative power supply. So but the symbol of this operational amplifier is like this. So like a triangle here. Okay, so like a triangle. So to the left side with a straight line, so we have to define the input terminals, and the place where two lines meet on the right hand side, so that is the output terminal, and the power terminals will be taken from the crossbars here. Okay, which as seen in the slide. Okay, so this is the operational op amp 741 op amp, so which we will be discussing in our subject, as well as by using this IC 741 op amp only, we are going to do the experiments in the lab. So now if you see this IC 741 op amp here, so it consists of 8 terminals. Okay, so it is a 8 terminal dual inline package. Okay, so the second terminal is inverting terminal. Okay, third terminal is non-inverting terminal, and the fourth terminal is so where we have to give the negative power supply, and the sixth terminal is output voltage terminal, and the seventh terminal is positive supply, that is 15 volts. So this power supply also again depends upon the type of manufacturer. So it ranges from plus or minus 12 volts to plus or minus 22 volts. Okay, so if you want to see the if you keep the IC op amp straight to you, so it will look like this. So the terminal numbers will be like this: 1 2 3 4. So that is from left to top to left to bottom. So after that, fifth pin will be started from the right bottom to the right top. So like this. So 4 5 6 7 8. So this is the IC which we are going to use in the lab. Okay, so it has basic 5 terminals: 2 input terminals, 1 output terminal, and two power supply terminals, what we have discussed. And the output goes positive when the non-inverting input goes more positive than the inverting input, and vice versa. Okay, so which you can see later about that. So next one, so these are, so whatever the op amp we have seen here, so it is the single ended input op amps. Okay, so single ended input op amp means, so here you can see the output is a single terminal, so that means single ended input op amps. There are also there are different configuration of op amps. So double-ended outputs also there. So where there will be two outputs here. So like this, two outputs will be there. The output is taken across the two terminals. Okay. So as per our syllabus, we have to start with a single-ended input here. So if you take the single-ended input, so in the first figure, on the top figure, so what you can see is that, so we are giving the input to the positive terminal. Okay, and the negative terminal of the op amp is grounded. So plus means, so it is the non-inverting terminal. So do remember that. So whenever in the operational amplifier, if you are giving the plus input terminal, so this side input terminals are designated. So here here and here the power supplies are designation, that is the output. Okay, so plus means it is non-inverting terminal, minus means inverting terminal. So remember that. Okay, so now what I am doing, so first is I am giving my input signal to the plus terminal, so that is non-inverting terminal, and the negative terminal, that is inverting terminal, is grounded. So since inverting terminal is grounded here, so what happens, whatever the input you are giving here, so it will be amplified at the output, but there will be zero phase change. So the phase will be the same. Okay, but whenever if you ground the non-inverting terminal, that is positive terminal, we have grounded here. Okay, so next what we have done at the inverting terminal, that means at the negative terminal, so we have given the voltage Vi. So after giving the voltage Vi, so you can see here, so we have applied the input signal and the output signal is amplified. So but there is a 180 degrees phase change between the input terminal and the output terminal. So why? Because so we have applied the input at the negative terminal, that is at the inverting terminal, and we have grounded the positive terminal, so that is non-inverting terminal. So even though there is a amplification, so when you are applying the input at the inverting terminal or negative terminal, there will be a 180 degrees phase change. So this we have to remember. Okay, so what we have to remember means, so whenever we are applying the input only at the positive terminal or non-inverting terminal, so the output what we will be getting is the amplification output, and there will be no phase change. For example, when you are applying the voltage only at the inverting terminal, and we are grounding the positive terminal means, so there will be amplification, but what happens, so there will be a phase change between the output and input. Okay, so that we have to see. So the basic things, this is about your op amp here. Let us see the let us see here. Okay, so first this is the characteristics equivalent to this. So this is the symbol of operational amplifier which we have seen just now. Okay, so inverting input terminal, non-inverting input terminal. So this is the power supplies, positive and negative power supplies, and the output terminal. So the same thing. So if V1 is equal to 0, so if V1 is equal to 0, so V1 means inverting terminal is equal to 0. So and if you are applying the voltage at V2 here, okay, so then what happens, so the V0 and V2 are the outputs V0 and the input V2 are at the same phase. Okay, so that just what we have seen. And if V2 is equal to 0, so the input we are applying at V1 and the output so will be 180 degrees out of phase with each other. Okay, so now let us see the characteristics of ideal amplifier. Okay, although this op amp does not exhibit ideal behavior in the experiment, so but it is very important for us in order to know the ideal characteristics of the op amp. Okay, so now if you see here in this figure, so in order to describe the ideal characteristics of op amp here, or the characteristics of ideal op amp, so what they have taken, so they have taken the voltage across two input terminals. Okay, so what are the two input terminals? Inverting input terminal and non-inverting input terminal. So across the negative terminal or inverting input terminal, so they have taken the voltage as V2. So across the non-inverting terminal or the inverting terminal, so they have taken the voltage as V1. So that is V1 is the voltage across the positive terminal, and the V2 is voltage across the negative terminal, and V0 is the output voltage. Okay, so the first thing is that if you want to say the op amp is an ideal op amp, the following characteristics are noteworthy. The first one is the infinite voltage gain. So the voltage gain will be infinite. So whatever the output voltage you are getting, so with respect to the input, that particular voltage gain will be infinite. So if you see here, A is equal to, that is A is the voltage gain, so is equal to V naught by V in. Okay, so V naught by V in here, the difference between these two input terminals, that is V1 and V2, so it is called the differential input voltage. Okay, so normally in the previous case what we have seen, so we have grounded only one input voltage and across other input voltage we have taken the voltage. So but here across both the terminals we have taken two different inputs, V1 and V2. So the difference between these two inputs is called as Vd. Okay, for an ideal amplifier, so Vd should be 0. Okay, so for an ideal operational amplifier, Vd should be 0. And now if you substitute that Vd here, what happens? So A is equal to V naught by V naught. So therefore, the infinite voltage gain becomes infinity. So therefore, the voltage gain of differential ideal op amp is infinite. Okay, how you can say means, if you see the figure 1.6 here, V2 and V1 are the voltages applied across the two input terminals, and Vd is the differential voltage. So in a operational amplifier, so Vd is nothing but the differential input voltage. So where Vd is equal to V1 minus V2. So that is 0 for a ideal operational amplifier. Okay, and also I1 and I2 are the currents. Okay, I1 and I2 are currents drawn by the input terminals of the op amp. So they are normally 0 in case of ideal different operational amplifier. So first what we have to understand is that, so Vd is the input differential voltage, which is nothing but 0, and I1 and I2 are the input currents drawn by the inputs of the operational amplifier. So they are 0 for a operational amplifier. And next one is the output voltage V naught is independent of the current drawn from the output, as Ri is equal to 0. Okay, so let us see that later. So from this we can say that, so infinite voltage gain is equal to A is equal to V naught by V in. So V in is nothing but, so V in is nothing but the difference of these two voltages, so which is equal to 0. So therefore A is equal to infinity. And next one is infinite input resistance. So the the ideal op amp has the characteristics of infinite input resistance, and therefore since it is having the ideal input resistance as infinity, the ideal operational amplifiers draws no current, as I told you. So I1 and I2 are the currents towards the input terminals of the op amp, so they are 0. Since they are 0, the resistance input resistance becomes infinity. Okay, so the next one is 0 output resistance or not. The output resistance of the ideal operational amplifiers is 0, so that this op amp can drive so infinite number of other devices. That means we can able to connect infinite number of devices to the output of the op amp. Why? Because the ideal op amp offers 0 output resistance. And the next one is 0 offset. So first of all we have to know what is meant by offset. So offset means, normally for if you take any electronic device, so what happens if the inputs are given 0, so automatically what should be the output? So output should be 0. But due to the manufacturing problems or due to the calibration problems, what happens is that even though if you are giving the inputs as 0, so output will not be 0, so there will be some value of the output. So that is called as output offset output voltage. Okay, so for the practical op amps or for practical electronic devices, so there will be little bit amount of offset voltage. So even though we are giving the input voltages as 0, so for the practical ICs or practical electronic devices, so there will be some output voltage or output current. So this is called as output offset. Okay, so but for an ideal op amp, the output offset should be 0. So that means when both the inputs are grounded or both the input voltages are 0, there should be no output voltage. Okay. And next one is infinite bandwidth. Okay. So the ideal operational amplifier has infinite frequency response, and this can amplify any frequency from DC to the highest AC frequency without any attenuation. Okay, so normally it is not possible for, but an ideal operational amplifier, so it has infinite bandwidth. Okay, and next one is common mode rejection ratio. So common mode rejection ratio is defined as the ratio of differential voltage application to the common mode voltage application. Okay, so this CMRR should be infinite for a operational amplifier. So CMRR means ratio of differential input voltage to the common input voltage. So if you have seen the op amp now, so I have taken the VD. So where VD is nothing but the difference input difference voltage. So VD. Same like that, so there will be a common mode voltage, so that means a common voltage to both of the inputs, so which is known as the common mode voltage VCM. So CMRR means so ADM by ACM, common differential mode gain by common mode gain. So this should be infinite for a op amp. Okay, so we will discuss about this common mode rejection ratio in detail in the next classes. So this next one is slew rate. So slew rate is nothing but the rate of change of output voltage caused by the step input. So normally what you can take is that, so dV naught by dt is nothing but the slew rate, that is the rate of change of output voltage with respect to time. Okay, so it is nothing but the slew rate. So the slew rate is infinite for a operational amplifier. So these are the characteristics of the operational amplifier. So this question has come in the examinations, I think in our autonomous syllabus only, so twice or thrice. So it has come for 3 marks. So right about the characteristics of ideal amplifier. Okay, so in our first, what we have to do is that, so we have to draw the ideal operational amplifier. So with negative and positive terminals, that is with inverting and non-inverting terminals, power supplies and output voltage. Okay, so let V1 is the voltage across the positive power supply, V2 is the voltage across the negative power supply. The current I1, okay, so is the current drawn by the positive input terminal, and I2 is the current taken into the negative input terminal. Okay, VD is the differential voltage between the two terminals. So for the ideal op amp, so differential input voltage should be 0. So as well as current drawn by the two terminals of the op amp must be 0. So therefore I1 is equal to 0 and I2 is equal to 0. The first characteristic is the voltage gain. The voltage gain is nothing but V0 by Vi. So voltage is nothing but the ratio of output voltage by the input voltage. So V0 by Vi, output voltage is V0 and the input voltage is Vi. So Vi is nothing but the difference of the voltage across these two terminals. So therefore Vi is nothing but the Vd. So therefore Vd is equal to 0. So therefore voltage gain A becomes infinity. So from this we can say that voltage gain is infinite. And the next thing is that input resistance Ra. So as the input currents, that is I1 and I2 are 0, so automatically input resistance Ri becomes infinite. And next one is output resistance R0. So ideal operational amplifier should have the 0 output resistance R0. And next one is output offset. As I told you, output offset is nothing but, so if you ground the input values or if you give the 0 input voltage across the inputs, so what should the output should be 0. So but it is not possible in case of practical applications. So for a there should be some voltage, but for the ideal operational amplifier, the output offset should be 0. The next one is infinite bandwidth. The operational amplifier has infinite bandwidth, so it can give the frequency response for any AC value, so without any attenuation. But practically it is not possible. Next one is common mode rejection ratio. The common mode rejection ratio is infinite for a operational amplifier. So these are the ideal. Next one is slew rate. Slew rate is nothing but the rate of change of output voltage. Okay, so dv naught by dt, rate of change of output voltage with respect to the input step signal. Okay, so it is infinite for a operational amplifier. So these are the characteristics of your ideal operational amplifier. Okay, so next one, you can see the equivalent circuit of operational amplifier. So it is the equivalent circuit of operational amplifier. So for the input terminals V2 and V1 are the voltages at the negative and positive terminals respectively, and R is the resistance. Okay, so where Vd is the input voltage and R0 is the output resistance and V0 is the output. This is the corresponding equivalent circuit of operational amplifier, so which can be used for the small signal analysis. Okay, uh, so this is various type of operational amplifiers and their applications. So general purpose operational amplifier, that is MUA 741. So that means MUA is nothing but the from Fairchild. Okay, its slew rate, its CMMR, that is the common mode rejection ratio, input impedance, total power dissipation. So these are the different different or various types of operational amplifiers manufactured by the Texas Instruments. Okay, so you can depending upon the type of application what you are using, so you can select any one of the IC. So, and coming to the power supply, how you can give the power supplies to your operational amplifiers. So your operational amplifier consists of two types of power supplies. So one is positive power supply and second one is negative power supply. So you can give the power supply like this. So it is one of the method. So you can use two DC power supplies here. Okay, positive power supply for one terminal and the negative power supply for the one terminal, and the common point is grounded, and the common point is grounded or connected to a reference point. Okay, if you are not connecting that to a reference point, twice the supply voltage will be given to the op amp and therefore the op amp will be damaged. So this for these kind of power supply, the disadvantage is that so it consists of two power supplies. Okay, so in order to overcome this, so what we are using this, so we are sometimes we can give the power supply by using the single power supply source. So we are using the RC configuration here. Okay, so by using the RC configuration, so that is the resistor here must be greater than 10 kilo ohm, and the capacitance provide the decoupling of power supply, and this ranges from 0.1 to 10 microfarad. Okay, so this is the one of the method how you can uh, supply the power supply to the op amps. Okay, so on the next type of method how you can give the power supply to the op amp is we can use the Zener diode. So it is the structure of the Zener diode. The Zener diodes, why we are using means, so these Zener diodes can give symmetrical supply voltages. So here RS is the chosen such that sufficient amount of current for the Zener diodes is provided in order to operate the Zener diode in the breakdown. Okay, so here a potentiometer can also be used equivalent to that of Vs here. So D1 and D2 can so this is another thing. So instead of this Zener diodes here, so they here we can use a potentiometer, and by using this potentiometer, so we can able to connect the power supply. So there are four methods how you can connect power supplies to this op amp. So normally in our laboratory point of view, so we will use the first method, so where different DC power supplies are used to connect. So it is a method, so what you will use in the lab. So why? Because it is very easy, but it has a disadvantage of using two power supplies, uh, but it is the easy method. So directly you can give the positive supply here and the negative supply here, and the common point is grounded. So this is the method what we will be using in our laboratory. So after this, so there are different configurations of inverting and non-inverting amplifier configurations, so which we can see in the next class. Okay.